So guys, here we have it today. We're back in Sea Power. It's been a while, of course, and we're gonna show a little bit using Sea Power how I think we can kinda have a very fun gameplay with Cold War ships. So basically, we have a problem the Gaijin says that we do, right? With Cold War, more modern ships, which is basically the ranges of these ships. So we have a little mission, and this mission is perfect to kind of show this, how it would work and stuff. And I mean, look at this. For example, this little thing here is the Oza 2 class little ship. It has the P-15, which is the Thermit, right? It's a very old missile, but look at this. This is one of the lowest ranges that we have in missiles, but it's 21 nautical miles, which is like, it's insane. It's like 35 or something kilometers of a range, right? So you can already see that this is going to be the main problem with having this type of thing in War Thunder, the actual ranges of these weapons. And this is one of the oldest ones, and one that doesn't have a lot of range, right? But still, if you actually put it in a kind of a specific type of battle, you can actually make this type of thing work. So I'm gonna try to show this a little bit here. So imagine that these are all players, okay? And of course, the map is much smaller. Okay, the objective here, of course, this is kind of an asymmetric kind of environment where we do not have aircraft because of the weather. And basically NATO is trying to push supplies over to Narvik, which is up here somewhere, right? In the map. So the objective is to destroy them. This is a very large map. Of course, this is like a world map. But of course, in War Thunder, we can have like 100-kilometer maps or even lower than that. And these type of thing will still work. So we're going to try to show a little bit how we would, at least on the early types of boats, okay? So in the game, of course, here, the objective is to find first where the enemies are. So we're going to try to do that using radars, using, stuff. So in this case, we don't have helicopters, we don't have scout planes or anything like that. So we're just going to use our sensors. And with these sensors, we're going to try to look for the targets. We're going to try to locate them. The difficulty in Sea Power is to actually know what is a civilian ship or not. But to be honest, in War Thunder, that's not going to be a problem, okay? So we're going to ignore some of the mechanics over here because they wouldn't work for War Thunder, okay? So first things first, guys, just think that, for example, here we have a ruler over here, that in this place over here, we would have a normal War Thunder map. So for example, you would spawn in this place. I'm looking at the map in the bottom left corner there. You would spawn in this place. The enemy would spawn in here. Of course, you can have, of course, parts of the fjords over here, or parts like this. For example, this is my second battle group over here. And of course, we have this column of terrain over here that it's just hiding their boats and our boats, So you can have stuff like this in a map, of course. But at the end of it, just like a normal map of War Thunder would have, right? But in a normal sense, the objective would be the same. You need to detect the target, you need to kill it. That's the major thing, okay? That's just like it is in War Thunder. I'm accelerating time over here for the video to not be like 3 hours long, because some of these can be, because the map is immense, of course. But basically, the objective will be the same as it was in War Thunder, as it is in War Thunder. I'm using my raiders over here. I have a ground raider, and I have an air raider. Of course, I'm turning on the air raider mostly to detect missiles, right, in this case. But at the same time, I mean, I can just turn it on for everybody. We have some other boats. For example, this one, which we do have in the game, if I'm not mistaken, that I think we have in the game, right? So I'm pretty sure we do. So, but yeah, all of these, they have sensors. That's one of the things that they need to add. I mean, I'm adding an active sonar over here, of course, because this game has submarines, but you have the raiders that we have in the game, but we don't have like surface search raiders that these boats, these ships have in real life, okay? That would be one of the first additions that we need. We need surface search radars for these ships. The second thing is working seaweeds. Yes, we need working series so that this can work. Why is that? Because although, for example, this thing, it does use the Volna, sorry, which is the S125, the same one as in the Bravi, for example, that is basically, sackless, right? These things, for example, they are using active radar homing missile, okay? So they're fire and forget. They need updates from the radar and everything, but you get the point, right? So we need little things like this because, of course, although, yes, in real life, I mean, there will be multiple operators. They will operate the series, they will operate the defense systems, the guns, everything, right? But if we have defense systems, radars, everything with that added, there's no reason why we cannot have active radar homing missiles for ships. There's no reason. So yeah, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit to see when we start detecting stuff. We just got hit. I think it was a submarine. So there's always that, right? In this game we have submarines and stuff. But you will get the point once we start to see this stuff. For some reason I'm not seeing it right now, but you will get the point. So in this case, here it is, I mean, a little bit more limited in War Thunder because, of course, I detected something, an emission from a radar. But I don't know if it's a friendly, if it's a civilian, what it is, right? In War Thunder, you wouldn't have that problem. So it might be him that it's actually hitting me, but I have no idea. It might actually be. So I'm just going to classify it as a hostile to show to you guys. But it can be anything, right? Because this is one of the things about this game. It's very realistic. You gotta identify if it's a civilian ship or not, right? But look at this. For example, we don't know exactly what is the distance here, but we detected an emission because these things have kind of an RWR, right? And with this, you can kind of know 22 nautical miles, right? So it is very far away, but we are almost in range for these missiles, right? And that's gonna be one of the things. You detect a target, and you can use the missiles, and it is going to be pretty much like a Phoenix missile, just like it is, or an M120, right? You would fire the missile, the enemy ship, has a way to defend itself. It has electronic countermeasures, of course, and stuff, but in a general sense, it has chaff, it has maneuvering, and it will try to defend itself using those. So, very realistic and something that we already have in the game. We already have that type of thing for aircraft. So, for example, just for the sake of it, I don't know if it's a civilian, but just for you to understand, I detected a friendly, an enemy over here. I detected something over here. I'm controlling this little ship, for example, this little boat over here. I'm gonna try to go for him, and I'm gonna use my missiles onto him. So actually we are already in range. I'm gonna fire 4 missiles on him. So yeah, I'm gonna just fire the missile. Okay, and these missiles, again, they're gonna work just like an M120. They're gonna work with the radar with some form of information from before, and afterwards they're gonna just go active. Okay, and with this in mind, oh, something else hitting me. I'm pretty sure I'm being hit by missiles or torpedoes, but the objective here is not to win, it's just to show to you guys how it would work, okay? But basically here, I would just launch my missiles, and then I have to go defensive, for example. I have to control my missiles if they're still going, keep lightening the enemy with radar, etc., right? But here I fired a missile, and he has a chance of defending himself. He has chaff. For example, here, if I want to use, I just click here. You're just gonna, deploy chaff. That will create a cloud of chaff here that will draw the attention of the missile, right? So just like a normal aircraft environment. Yes, the ranges are pretty insane sometimes, especially for the Russian missiles. You have missiles that go 500 kilometers and stuff, but the minimal ranges are pretty okay. And if they choose correctly what are the missiles that they're adding and etc., you can have some pretty interesting gameplay over here. That it's a little bit more strategic. I'm pretty sure I'm getting killed by a submarine over here, but ignore the submarine. Ignore the submarine, okay? But in a general sense, I can just pretty much just attack targets, defend myself, use chaff, just like an aircraft would be, okay? So this is how I think War Thunder should have more modern combat with boats, okay? I'm not even talking about submarines and stuff like that. I still believe submarines need to be added. But this is, you know, a way of adding this type of thing. Does it mean you will never see gun-to-gun combat? No, because every single time you will miss these missiles. The chaff will draw them, etc., 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 right? Which will make these things... look at this. They're trying to fire on my missiles over here. So you will have forms of combat that will make everything work. So here, I don't need to fire the 4 of them, for example. Let me fire 2 of them on this one, because all of the termites are going to go to the exploding target there. But I killed the target, right? And he killed me, so I would respawn and try to find the targets again, right? And this is kind of how it works. So I think it's very, very cool. We still have the Volna, for example, here. We're not in range, for example. But he has a chance of defending himself. He has a chance of intercepting the missiles. He has a chance of doing all these things. Where are the missiles? Yeah, being fired, right? It is a much more strategic gameplay. It is a much more... I don't know, like a more complicated gameplay sometimes, but in an overall sense, still will have gunfights. When the missiles stop rolling, when the missiles are just, you ran out of missiles or you're missing the missiles, you're gonna go to guns, okay? And one thing that you have to understand is that, of course, these missiles, they're very old, so they're very easy fooled by chaff. I don't think these boats that I'm firing against, they have chaff, but you get the point, right? In an overall sense, it means that there are ways to counter these missiles, just like an M20. So this is the way that we need. So if I'm gonna be honest, we need a list of stuff that needs to be added for ships. First of all, radars, surface search radars that we already have in the game. So it's just adding those for ships, or adding ships that have those. The second thing is countermeasures. You know, for example, chaff, maybe ECM in the future, but in a general sense, chaff would help a lot. Another thing would be, of course, the weapons themselves. I think I'm being hit again. I'm pretty sure. Yep. Yeah, something is hitting me. Oh my god. Yeah, torpedoes, guided torpedoes need to be happening. Let me show to you guys me using the RBUs over here to try to defend myself. You can use the RBUs to kill a torpedo. Let's see if it works. Oh my god, I'm gonna get killed. Noisemakers, of course. Stuff that creates... I'm gonna get killed. This was... I detected this thing way too close to me. But yeah, torpedoes, guided torpedoes, stuff like that. I think it's very cool. It's very interesting to have. And it just, yeah, it just sank the other ship. You can see it right there, right? So, yeah, there are multiple things. I'm just getting my ASS beaten over here a little bit, but you get the point, right? All of these sensors, all of these things, they will create kind of a rock, paper, scissors situation. And this is how I think more modern, especially Cold War ships need to be added, right? Missiles, sensors, defense systems. If you add all of these, you can have a very cool and very fun gameplay on more modern situations. And the ranges, yes, they're gonna be increased. You're gonna fire missiles at 40, 50 kilometers, maybe even more. But to be honest, it doesn't matter too much. If you have these defense systems, it can make it work. Even if you bend a little bit reality to make it a little bit more usable. Okay? So this is how I think should be. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. It might not get too much attention, but I really wanted to make this video just talking a little bit about it. Radars, everything with that. I think it would be very cool. So I see you guys in the next one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and bye guys. See ya.